Hello everyone, my name is Brendan McCauley and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new to my channel, I first want to invite you to subscribe. This channel is all about you and me journeying together into the truths and mysteries of who we are. And in this video, I want to share with you Pope St. John Paul II's favorite word. He never actually told us, to my knowledge. But one of my friends who wrote her dissertation on him said after reading all of his writings in Polish, his favorite word has got to be person. Person. John Paul II once wrote, "As I saw thousands of people walk in the Vatican, I would wonder about each unique life, each unique story, their joys and their sorrows." And this is what was so amazing about John Paul II, is that when he encountered people, he didn't just look at them, but he tried to see them and wonder about them. In one of his greatest books, Love and Responsibility, which is a philosophical work on Catholic sexual ethics, he didn't just say, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. But he focused in on this word, person. What do persons deserve? He said the body and sexuality needs to be elevated to the level of the person. And he said, a person is a kind of good that the only proper and mature relation is love, which is to will the good of another for their own sake. And the opposite of love, it's not hate, but he said it's using. And he says, on the negative end, a person is kind of good that is incompatible with just using, which is to reduce them to an object merely for a means to an end. And what can that look like? Well, if I said to a friend, hey, you're only good insofar as you can give me pleasure or money or entertainment or something else. And once you can't give me that, you're no longer good for me. And I think in some way, in small ways or large ways, we are all guilty of failing to love people and just using them simply for my own self. And a great movie scene that kind of depicts how we're called to treat people. And this isn't just with sexual morality, but this is in the medical field. The movie's Patch Adams. And Patch Adams is played by Robin Williams, one of my favorite actors. And he wants to be a doctor, but he saw in the medical field that some doctors and nurses weren't really treating people as they should be, but rather as kind of objects or things that are just laying on beds in the hospital. And I'll never forget this scene, but his professor, along with like 20 other students, were walking through the hospital, kind of like a tour. And they stop in the middle of the hall, and there's a woman who's awake laying down on a bed. And they walk over to her, and none of them acknowledge her. And the professor just says, here we have a diabetic, and on her leg, you can see there's diabetic ulcers. And one of the students raised their hand. Any sign of osteomyelitis? Which I do not know what that is, but the professor said, no, not right now. And another person raised their hand and said, what's the treatment? And the professor said, antibiotics to reduce the blood sugar and possible amputation. And the woman grabs her blanket and starts crunching it and kind of hiding. And Patch Adams said to the professor, what's her name? And the professor looked at his sheet and said, it's Marjorie. And Patch Adams said, hi, Marjorie. And she began to smile and said hi back. And right here, we see Patch Adams teach us how we're called to greet others, see others. John Paul II teaches us this as well. And what's the importance of this? Well, I think John Paul II would say, if we miss how we're called to treat people and what people deserve, we're going to kind of miss how we do business, how we do medicine, law, and really how a community is formed, and then the culture. We need to first understand, what do persons deserve? And John Paul II said, they deserve to be loved. And something to reflect on is maybe where in your own life are you just using people for your own self rather than loving them for their own sake? If you've enjoyed this video, I invite you to subscribe again and I hope to see you next time. Thanks.